Stephanie, welcome to Women Investor Wednesdays.
Thank you, Beth. So good to be here.
I'm so glad to have you. So before we get started, just for everyone that might be joining us tonight, I like to tell why we're here. So back during COVID, I had learned a stat that of all of the commercial real estate investors in the domestic US, only 3% were women. And of the 3%, half were inherited and half were women that signed on their husband's guarantees, which meant that I'm only part of 1.5%, which I found to be deplorable. And I said, I need to do something about this. So I put together a little virtual summit, and we had about 100 women that participated. I interviewed 8 women like you who were investors, and they went into breakout rooms like in Zoom and stuff, and it went over very well. Everyone loved it. So since then, I've done 4 live events, and we have about 250 women. It's awesome. Again, interviewing women on stage, breakouts, all different asset classes. But because the conferences are capped at 250 women, and I do that because women are now investing with each other in the room, which I'm really excited about, I realized I'm not capturing as many women as I would like to. So I created Women Investor Wednesday podcast because I figured if I could interview 50 women a year besides the conference, those numbers will build up a lot faster. And I think we're getting close to the 100th interview. So you might be the 100th. We don't know. I don't know. I haven't checked lately, but welcome to the show. And I can't wait for you to share your investing and development experience with the audience.
Oh man, thank you so much for having me. And I have to say, I honestly just love what you're doing. When you're getting started, you need to see people that look like you, that are doing it, that make you feel confident. And I just absolutely love being a part of this mission. So thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so I know you've been investing many years. But can you remember back to, and we'll get to what you're doing now, obviously fascinating. But do you remember the first time you bought your first non-home invested piece of real estate? And what was it?
Yeah, so my first purchase was my home and was an accidental investment. And I didn't know that what I was doing at the time was investing. What I was doing was being super cheap. And so a little bit of background and context. I always share this because I know that someone out there, and if it's just one person that can relate to this, that is important to me. So I come from a legal background. I'm a lawyer by trade. I always say I'm a lawyer in recovery. I was not the profession for me, but everyone just assumes I had these just tons of disposable income and the golden handcuffs and all of the really high-end money and honestly, that was not the case. I graduated in 2009. There were no jobs. I was underemployed. And I couldn't afford rent. So I moved back home with my parents. And logically, that made a ton of sense. Psychologically, that was terrible, right? And so I was really just kind of trying to figure out, how do I get out of this situation? And I couldn't even afford the $400 a month in rent. It was so bad, Beth. So during this time—
What city, where'd you go to law school, undergrad law school, and what city were your parents in?
So grew up in central Connecticut, went to college in central Pennsylvania at Bucknell, and then went to law school in Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh.
And then now I'm back in Connecticut. So
okay.
Yeah, full East Coast tour.
Awesome.
So
you're
while
back
I was
in
living
Connecticut with your parents. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt and get you off track.
Yeah. And my mom suggested, why don't you buy a duplex? And I just blew up. That's the stupidest thing ever. I can't even afford rent. How am I going to afford 2 houses? Right. And then once that anger, which was really just shame, right? Once that went away and I started to ask some questions about what that would look like, I realized I could actually afford a lot more if I bought a duplex than trying to buy a single family by myself. And so I got an agent that was a flipper, was a landlord, had done a lot of renovations, and we started to look at projects. And he had shown me a lot of turnkey properties, or they were technically turnkey, but they just didn't meet my standards, right? So like high standards, low buying power. It was a conflict. So he randomly mentioned to me, like, why don't you take out a rehab loan? A 203K loan is what I use to get started. So this is for owner occupants that have a rehab property. It's allowing you to pool in one loan the purchase price and the rehab costs. And it gives you a HUD, like a construction consultant who supervises the scope of work and manages the project, goes and checks on the craftsmanship, signs off on the draws, right? All the things that, like, as a new investor, I would, and I still didn't know I was investing, but as a new person in the construction space, wouldn't have known what I was doing. So they did all of that for me. And that also opened me up to a new pool of properties to look at. So I buy this condemned duplex in the best town, in the best location, and basically designed it myself from the ground up. And I was so lucky to have no clue what could go wrong. And I just went into it like, this is going to be great. And it was. My contractor took care of me. My agent took care of me. That property is still my best performing asset to this day. I have, I think, God, 75% equity in that property. I've got lines of credit on it. Like, it just keeps giving, right? It keeps giving. So what I want to share.
Wait, how much did you buy it for?
I bought it for 133 and I put 50,000 into it. So I was all in for 183.
Where did you get the 50?
So that was part of the loan. Yes, the bank gave it to me.
So did the bank did you have to put any money down for the loan?
Yeah. So it's a 203, it's a FHA product. So I put 3.5% down of the purchase and rehab cost.
And did you have that money saved?
I did. So I started scrounging. I went to a Millionaire Mind seminar. I'm going to digress and tell about this one. I went to a Millionaire Mind seminar, and they had the idea of everything you earn, you put 10% in your investment bucket, 10% in your investment bucket. Even if you do not have it to invest, it's not enough. You just keep putting it in there. And so I was putting in $5, $10, whatever it was. And after a year, and I had a couple other like things come into the mix, some teaching fees that I earned. I had it after, so I had been searching for a year, and then the purchase took about 6 months. So it was a year and a half of.
So you got a great loan. Okay. And you move in after you do all of the work. And then did you find a tenant right away for the other half?
Right away. Yeah. And then, when I learned I was investing was when that tenant moved out, and all of a sudden I had to pay my own mortgage for a half a month. And I was like, well, this is terrible. And then I realized that's what other people do when they buy a primary residence that's a single family. But I have been getting my tenant to pay for my mortgage for the past 3 years. So all of a sudden it was like light bulb. And then I started buying more to have my tenants pay those mortgages too. So all of a sudden this deal is just like a gem for me. And I've since turned the leases into midterm rentals. So like the value just keeps going. But what I do want to say is, in that space, it was the most shameful time of my life. But what it gave me is the opportunity to be resourceful. If I had been earning the money that I wanted to be earning, I would never have bought a duplex. I would never have gotten into real estate. And so in hindsight, that was the best gift. That was my competitive advantage, is that I had to make a way to get to my goals. So if you're in that space, just know it's a snapshot in time, and you may look back and realize that it is actually the thing that sets you off in whatever path you're going towards.
Well, yeah, you know what they say, when you ask God for something, you may be getting it, but not in the manner that you're thinking you want to receive it. right?
Exactly. Life happens for you, not to you. And I just
Right.
didn't know it at the time. But
How old
now
were
I'm
you?
so grateful.
How
I
old?
was 26.
So, okay. So at that point, you have a job, you're underemployed. Did you ever and then you said, okay, now I'm going to start investing.
Yeah.
So did you get a better job making more money, or did you just go to the bank of mom and dad or family and friends? Like what happened? Job, better job, more money, or just all in investing, friends and family? Like what happened? Where that you had a path, or maybe they
Yeah.
were together. What happened next?
So I stayed at that job for way too long, but I took on another job. So I took on a commercial real estate agent job, actually. So I worked at Colliers International for 6 years. It was wonderful. The guys were awesome. It was an amazing education in real estate. And what I was doing was living off of the W-2 and stashing that other money, all the commissions that I was earning for that time. And so I was able to start buying more properties. I discovered the Burr strategy, so I was now able to recycle money. Then I had a proven track record. Now I was able to go to private lenders and say, I've got more deals going than I have funds. So then I was able to start accessing money that wasn't mine, and then things started to pick up a little bit faster for me.
Amazing. What were you doing at Colliers? Love that. Love that little turn. What were you doing there?
Yeah, I mean, I was doing office and retail, mostly leasing, sometimes sales. But I mean, it was all part-time, but it was actually like a really good gig. I was one of the first when medical marijuana and dispensaries came in. I represented one of the first like people that forayed into the space. So it was just, having a legal background and being able to read what the regulations said, navigate through the town restrictions, like that. Again, I didn't love being a lawyer, but that background has again been a competitive advantage for me for sure.
Amazing. So why did you leave Colliers? Did the investing thing just take off?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was really to the point that I just loved what I was doing for me, and I wasn't serving Colliers well because it wasn't where I wanted to be. It wasn't where I was putting my focus in. So really out of respect for everything that they had done for me, they'd been so accommodating, and took me part-time, which normally is not something that they do, but they had been incredibly generous and welcoming. And so at that point it was like, okay, you know, I've made you money, you've made me money. This is a really good time to separate so that I can focus. So I left the law firm and Colliers a little bit before it felt ready, but it was great. I haven't looked back. I haven't worked.
And
I
when was
haven't
that?
worked in a
Right.
while.
Right. Exactly.
I
I
work a
don't work.
lot, but
Yeah.
different work.
What year was that you left those two jobs and went all in on the investing?
2019, I want to say. So it's like 5, 6 years ago.
And at the time when you left, what was your portfolio makeup?
It was 13 units. It wasn't that big, but again, I'm super resourceful, so house hacking, and I don't have any kids, so there's like very little overhead. My partner, he's self-supporting, so like I don't need to contribute to him, right? So it was like, what do I need? And I need time. And
Right.
my portfolio was putting that off. And I will say pretty quickly, I had 13 units, and then I got 6 units under contract within 30 days. So it was two different three families. So my portfolio increased by 50% in a matter of a month, pretty much right after leaving. And that was probably the most stressful time because I didn't have that consistent income. You've got projects going on. And that was right before. So, yeah, once they were stabilized was like right before COVID happened. And then rents went crazy. A lot of tenants moved. So I was able to capitalize on that. And then all of a sudden, so now I've got a portfolio of 19 units, 5 of them are midterm, and it supports a pretty good life. I spend winters somewhere else and have freedom, and again, haven't worked in 5 years, 6 years.
Amazing. Okay. And so are any single family, or are they all like duplex tries? What is it? And how many today? Like, what has happened since COVID? Have you added, like, now you're developing, right? Like,
Yeah. So I think the big thing that's happened since COVID is I've found creative deals. So this is kind of a strange one. I'll share it. I'd be curious your thoughts on it, actually, if you wouldn't mind.
yeah.
So I found this like dream waterfront property that is owned by a woman she's been living there for 60 years, but she could no longer afford the taxes. And so we structured this creative deal. She has a reverse mortgage on it, but she ran out of money. And so I have taken over, she's 92. I've taken over her expenses for the rest of her life. Her taxes and insurance are on me. But when she passes, I get the property. And so the mortgage is about 530,000 right now. It's worth about 1.1. After about 150 of reno, it'll be worth about 1.4. So it adds to my net worth, but it is a cash suck because it's just an expense at this point. But it's something that I know that in a matter of years, right? And the underwriting is very good for 8 years, pretty good for another 2 or 3, right? So I've now I've started to get into like utilizing creative financing to take on deals that wouldn't necessarily, it's not a cash flow move, but it's a long-term move. So that's one. I did a very similar structure where I 1031'd out of a problem 3 family, got into a trophy asset 3 family. So the unit count didn't change, quality of life changed a ton. And that was also using creative financing. So I did a 1031 for a big chunk of the down payment, seller finance 0 points, 0% interest for a year.
Wow.
While I did the reno. So I'm out of pocket on the reno costs, but I'll refi and pay him off. And what the seller financing piece did was allowed me to bridge the gap between what my maximum allowable offer was and what they wanted. And if I was going with the traditional bridge loan, I was going to pay points, I was going to pay 12% interest, but instead I was like, I will take that money that's no fun to pay, right? I'll take that money that's going to go to the lender and I'll I'll add it to the purchase price, but you have to finance the deal, no interest, no points. And so that, like, the out of pocket cost is the same to me, but it made the difference for the seller to give me the deal. So I'm now working that angle and working through creative deals a little bit more.
Love that. You know, and you don't find a lot of lawyers that are creative. Sorry.
Yeah,
love my lawyers, but they're not usually the creative group.
I have a very good friend who is the creative finance attorney in Connecticut. And so she and I spend a lot of time just like banging our heads against the wall on deals. So yeah, it's really nice to have her in my Rolodex, right?
I love that she's a she.
Yes.
I need to talk to her.
You do need to talk to her. I will make that connection.
I love the 92-year-old story. You know, I am involved in a shopping center. We were talking right before we came on that I've met my neighbor. I owned the shopping centers on either side of his project. I met him when he was 76. He's about to be 93. And finally, after haranguing him for 16 years, he finally agreed for me to be able to buy in and be his partner. And about a year and a half ago, and now I'm up to 34%, but I am in the will. He has 5 children that are they're older than me. They're in their late 60s.
Wow.
And I'm in the will. We have documents that I'm the only one that, you know, I have the first right to buy any other partner shares out. So it's my deal.
Yeah.
And we just finished a $3.5 million renovation on it that we both, you know, he had been saving up cash flow to fund something. Enter me. I know exactly how to spend that money. And then when we ran out of that reserve money, he and I both contributed to finish. So, but I'm up to 34%. And I hope he lives to a ripe old age. His parents both died in their hundreds, like 102 and 104. So
Incredible.
every time I talk to him, he goes, "Why did I wait so long?" So now he has a brand. Literally tomorrow, we're doing our final punch list walkthrough on the renovation, and the tenants. The tenants hated me the first 90 days and they loved me. I got back from vacation last night and I went to the property today and the fences are down and we're at the end and they're hugging me. They're so happy.
That feels good. So I check in on this woman occasionally just to say hi, let her know her taxes have been paid, her insurance has been paid, that I'm holding up my end of the bargain. And whenever I call, she's like, I was just thinking about you. I'm like, you say that every time. She's like, I'm always just thinking about you. Like, I can't believe that you let me stay in my house. What was she going to do? It was 60 years there, and she couldn't afford it. She couldn't afford rent somewhere else either. She was going to be destitute. So it really is a win-win. And I'm very lucky to have the means to be able to do that. And I will have the most incredible waterfront home that's on a beach, like it is a prize asset for me. So I couldn't think of a better.
How did you find her? Did you find her because the tax rules were in default?
No, a wholesaler posted on Facebook. He didn't have it under contract, but he was in negotiations. He knew she needed to sell, and he just posted on Facebook like, "I've got this deal in this town on the beach. Does anybody want it?" And I was like, "I'll buy it." And so we reached out, we came to terms on a price. This was before that I knew she wanted to stay. Came to terms on a price to sell, she backed out. Came to terms on another price to sell, she backed out. And this probably went on for a year. The wholesaler backed out of the deal. He was like, "This is dead." And I was like, "I don't think it's dead." So I kept calling her. Finally, I left a message on her machine. She had stopped answering. I left a message. I was like, "I've figured out how to make this work. You can stay in your home, but the property goes to me after your passing." And she called me back right away. And so right before closing, I called the wholesaler and I was like, "I need your commission statement." He's like, "For what?" I was like, "This deal is closing." He's like, "No way, no way." So yeah, he was shocked that it closed, shocked that I brought him back in. And
Right.
It was all through visibility and just like, I've got a reputation of being a closer. I can get the deal done. And man, I got it done and he couldn't. So that was
that's so funny. Similar story, 76 years old, my neighbor, obviously I own both shopping. Like I called him every 3 months. And he would pick up the phone. "No, I don't want to sell, Beth. No, I don't want to sell. No, I don't." And so after like literally 5 years, I'm like, this is the definition of insanity. And he didn't want to sell because he didn't want to pay the taxes. And my other partner's like, "Put me in a meeting with him. I'll convince him. We'll do a 1031 into Walgreens." And I'm like, and I'm thinking, this is not a good idea to put these two together. Like, I don't think that it's going to, but again, female thinking richer, smarter. I put them together. My at the time, 80-year-old didn't like my other partner. It pushed back the relationship like to the start. Like I was like, "Oh," and I was like getting so close, or I wasn't getting close, but he was saying, "You are the right person to own it. I don't want to sell it. Maybe we'll do some kind of partnership." But my other partner's like, "No, we should buy it. He should 1031. I'll tell him how to save his taxes." And it was bad. But so I started all over again, kept the other guy out of it, and started all over again. And then I realized me calling and just asking, to calling him I'm not adding value. I'm just being a pain in the ass. So I started calling him saying, "Hey, I just hired this painter. He was great. If you have any graffiti, like here's his name and number." Or then I would call like 3 months later, "I just hired this stripe and seal guy. He was awful. Don't use him." So I started building up value, and it had to be sensitive because, Stephanie, I didn't want to tell him, "I'm getting double the rent you are."
Yeah.
So I had to help him and add value without letting him know that he was under renting, because if at some point I was going to get to buy in or buy it, I didn't want him, to know really what was going on in the market. So it worked out. It worked out, and I'm happy, and I'm an owner, and I'm locked in. I can buy future shares at a locked in basis, not on what we just improved. which is super important, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
the persistence of us sticking it out, I would run into people going, how did you get in there? I've been after that guy forever. I'm like, how long's forever? At least a year. At least a year, they would say. I go, okay, 16 years.
yeah, you win. You win. And I've found that, leaving the job gives me the headspace to be more creative, to remember to follow up, and to do it in a personal way that isn't like a robocall, ringless voicemail, right? Like I was really working with her to understand what the problem was. And I don't think that that's necessarily scalable, but for the asset that I wanted, it was effective.
100%. People say to me all the time, well, when people ask me, well, how do I do what I do? I like find a deal I want to buy and I just harangue them till we figure it out. Like, well, that's not scalable. I go, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Like, I am not looking to buy 5 deals a year. If I buy 1 deal every few years, I'm okay with that. And frankly, now at the almost age of 65, I'm doing more LPing and women's deals than I am actually doing GPing on my own deals. I'm telling women, your kids are going to send my kids checks.
That's fun. And I really love the pivot, right? So like I'm not aggressively buying deals, but I am optimizing. So I love systems and processes. It's one of the things that I actually mentor on. So I'm a mentor in the Invest Her community. I run the systems and processes pod. So it's all about SOPs and automation and delegation and, like having the headspace, the creative space to build that course, to pour into those women is amazing. And the case studies and like the wins of what's accomplished in those modules is really important to me. And so I really love having the freedom from the grind to pursue the fun stuff. So yeah,
For sure.
development, education.
Right, exactly. I saw, and everyone should be going to your Instagram, and we'll talk about how to get in touch with you at the end. But I saw a lot of your videos on your SOPs and how important that is, and how that does help people scale for sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, I started with the E-Myth when I was working as a lawyer, had the job at Collier's and was multiple Burr deals. And so I was just like doing everything myself. And I was like, something's got to give. Like, there's no reason why there's not a checklist for this. And when I read the E-Myth, that really helped me see from an outside perspective what I was doing wrong. And as a logical person, like I literally love logic, right? Like logic class was my favorite class. So all of a sudden the if thens, the flow charts and the checklist all just became really natural and fun to implement. And then things I actually got to see like the success of them when I brought on a virtual assistant and projects were happening or things were working without me, right? So like my midterm rentals, I love them, but they're more hands-on, right? Like it's a lot of turnover, it's a lot of communication, and my VA handles 95% of all of that communication, the leasing, the inquiries, all of that. And I wouldn't be able to do that if we didn't have systems built out and she knew what the rules were and what the guidance was. And she only escalates like gray question matters to me now at this point. And then we're just building our FAQs, right?
How long have you had her?
5 years. So right around the time that I left. So I took her on. So I was basically taking my salary and throwing it away and adding her salary to the mix. And it took me probably 6 to 8 months to be comfortable with that expense. Because at the beginning it was like, I'm doing all the work, I'm doing all the training, and I'm spending, but I'm not getting the benefit. And I wanted to cut bait. I wanted to just save the money. And I knew that that was not the life that I wanted. So I stuck with it. And, it hasn't been perfect, but 5 years is a success. And I can travel and be away and things are still getting done without me. So that is really just, thank you.
That's amazing. Let's talk about what you're doing now, developing.
Yeah, there's a couple development options that I'm working on, and none of them are broken ground. I have a plot of land. Actually, my first purchase is a double lot. It's one lot that's big enough to be two. So we're working on subdividing and building another duplex in its place, in the new lot. So that's one. And then my mom has owned a plot of land for years, waterfront down at the shore, has always wanted to build on it, but doesn't have the ideas or the ability to spearhead it. So a year and a half ago, I did some underwriting and I was like, this deal works. This works with the zoning regulations without variances. What they want as of right is going to work. So it's 8/10 of an acre. It allows for 6 properties, so 6 freestanding. They're technically condos, but they're freestanding homes. And so we have gone through most of the soft costs, but right now, so we've done the architectural plans, the site work, and have done many meetings with the town to make sure that we're in alignment. There's still like lighting and trash and mail and things like that that need to be worked out. But I'm not sure what will happen. We've got a builder and developer partner that we are partnering with. That may or may not work. I'm not sure. But right now they are listed for sale in a like pre-construction sale. It's been a quiet summer. We've also had the cost of material increase significantly over the past couple months. So that I think is something that we, have to build in. So there's a lot of unknowns, but it's a $5.5 million build, and we own the land outright, and it would be an incredible deal to get started. So we're really looking at how to finish it.
How excited is your mother?
Oh my God. I mean, she wants it done yesterday. So she could not be like more excited. And she was really involved in building the plans because she wants one of the units. So for her, she's building her dream home. She's seeing me lead this team, leading the town meetings. Like she's just beaming in every way. So the fact that it's been a slow process, I think is like deeply painful to her. But yeah, it's been really a great win-win again, because I'm hoping to take this to the finish line, get her a unit. She gets the unit. She gets, to pass on information and education. So
amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
So before we get to how do they reach you and some things you might have to offer to them, we're both members of GoBundance.
Yes.
So I'm a new member. I think I joined in March. How long have you been a member?
I joined in February.
Oh, so we're newbies together.
We're newbies.
I thought you'd been involved for a couple of years.
No.
Yeah. And we got to meet in person in Orlando.
We actually met last year at Investor. You sat at my table.
Yes. Investor. I remember that. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. And I had an instant, 50 investor women to come on the podcast the minute I joined GoBundance, because it's full of women investors.
Yeah, it's incredible. The support and the information is just amazing in this group.
So, okay, so you have Landlord. I'm going to botch this. What's it called? Landlord?
The Lean Landlord.
So tell everyone about that in case they want to reach out.
Yeah, so the Lean Landlord is about running a professional DIY landlord operation. So you're self-managing, but you have control, transparency, streamlined operations. So I educate, and I'm also working on, I didn't even get to this, I'm working on building an AI agent that handles maintenance coordination, because that is the one piece that you're reactive, and that is, I think, the pain point. So I'm working on all of those things. So definitely, follow the Lean Landlord, or Stephanie Cabral at the Lean Landlord, and see what I'm doing. It's all fun stuff, and it's all very raw and unpolished. So be warned.
And are you in the South now, or are you back up north?
I'm back up north. Yeah, we should be going. It's like a January to June time down there, and then we come back. There's no better place than Connecticut in the summer.
Okay, awesome. Well, it's been such a pleasure. So is the best way to get you on Instagram, or where's the best way for them to find you?
Yeah, Facebook and Instagram. It's the Stephanie Cabral is my handle on both of those.
Awesome. Stephanie, it's been such a pleasure. Okay, last question. If of I would say 60 to 70% of the people who watch are already investors, but usually there's like 30% that are ready to dip their toe in, that are unsure, have some capital. Like I always say that when people go, how do I get started? I go, save your shekels. You got to have money.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
this whole with other people's money thing, it's not my thing. But
Especially to start.
yeah, exactly. So what would be your number one tip or advice for them to get started?
Get in the room with other people that are doing it. I think you want to be in networking groups. You want to go to meetups. Get off the forums. Like the forums are great to find out where the people are going. It's good for information, but you need to have conversation. You need to build a network. You need to build the people you can call when something's happening and you don't know what to do, right? So in person building, basically you're building your education, and it has to be done in person.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for joining Women Investor Wednesdays.
Oh, thanks for having me, Beth. It was good to spend time.
You too.